2018 Kawasaki H2 SX, the base version of the 200 horsepower supercharged monster of a sport tour. Stay tuned for a complete in-depth Pegasus Motorcycle Tours and Consulting review of this incredible sport touring machine. Let's do it. Zdravo y dobrodošli, bon dia, bem-vindos, servus, willkommen, buenos dias, bienvenidos, greetings riders, and welcome to another Pegasus Motorcycle Tours and Consulting review. Nick here, thank you for your time and for your attention. What I have for you today is a very special motorcycle indeed, one that you don't see on the road very often, the incredible H2 SX. This is the base version of the motorcycle, albeit there's nothing base about this particular bike. It's a 200 horsepower monster, supercharged four-cylinder motor, and it ultimately ends with the H2R. You could call it Kawasaki's flagship, just a beast of a motorcycle. This here is that little taste of what that motorcycle is capable of with the 200 horsepower motor that's supercharged. What does that give you? That gives you 101 foot-pounds of torque at 9,500 RPM. The peak horsepower, which can actually be augmented to 130 with a quick ECU reflash, is reached at 11,000 RPM. But the supercharger, unlike a turbo, which Honda experimented with, I think in the 80s, their 500cc, I believe, turbo motorcycle didn't sell very well. The supercharger, just like in a vehicle, a car, it allows you to not have to wait for that turbo to spool. So you're supposed to technically get it lower. The RPM gives you a little more juice. There is still a little bit of lag in my opinion, but man, the power is just so great. Can you actually live with this motorcycle? That was my question, because very recently I purchased my dream bike, the MV Agusta Super Veloce 800 S version nonetheless, which has been reflashed and aero exhaust, gorgeous motorcycle, made in the mountains of Italy on Lake Como. Just an incredibly beautiful motorcycle, and in styling, I think this bike's direct opposite. And power to weight ratio, that's a much lighter motorcycle, obviously. Still not their super sport, but it's more like a neo retro, I guess, sport motorcycle. It's in styling, it's very different. Power to weight ratio is very similar to this bike, but of course naturally aspirated 3-cylinder motor. Now the triples have something that I think 4-cylinder inline motorcycles lack, in my humble opinion, after owning about 80 of them, just motorcycles of all different classes and styles. And I dare say it's the C word, character. Now this thing, it's not a, you can't claim a boring motorcycle. It's not a biker that would sit on this bike and not enjoy it. The thing is that the grunt, the character of the motor, the feel, that's I mean the reason why twin sport bikes are so popular and so beloved, right? The linear nature of the 4-cylinder motor, the super smooth operation of the 16 valves that are inside this thing that make sure that power is delivered in a manageable, safe manner, and obviously a more efficient burn, makes this motorcycle very usable for the everyday, not easily forgettable, but also not a bike that you can probably imagine keeping for the rest of your life, just because I think it really does lack that charismatic grunt and the lower end torque of the V-twin sport bikes, for example. And in my opinion, the triples have like the middle ground of everything, the top end power and the torque. Another thing that actually surprised me was my VFR 1200F, another bike I've reviewed here that I've upgraded from the 800, and that is a V4 cylinder, so a V4, 2 and 2, and they're actually two closer together, and then two that are in the front are farther apart, so it makes the whole shape of the bike different. I only mention that because I don't want to take away from how amazing this motorcycle is. Aside from all the tech that you get, especially with the SE Special Edition version that was I think $4 grand more expensive, pushing it close to $30,000. that they ultimately just conglomerated everything into the SE or SX, let's say SE, SX together from 2025 and on. Before then, though, you can get this version, the SE, that lacked some of the technical amenities, let's say, that make the SX probably worth the $4,000 in my humble opinion. I've touched on this a little bit, the technology that comes from Kawasaki's. When I reviewed the Versus, I bought that bike new in that beautiful green color, another thing we're going to talk about, and it was just full of tech. What I mean by that is, aside from basic stuff, let's say like heated grips, on the SE, the differences between the base XX and the special edition SE model is that you also get adaptive cruise control as opposed to just a general cruise control. You don't get heated grips on this one. You don't get the TFT display. In my opinion, the TFT display is worth looking at for sure, but there's just way too much information. It's not very large in that regard, even though I think it's 6.5 inches, something to that effect, but way too much. I mean, that bike even gives you just a little diorama of where your weight is on the seat. Not like that really is important in my opinion. I actually speak about it more when I review the Versus, so I would recommend you watching that if you're interested. Also because those bikes share other features, like for example the luggage. So you get various sensors up front and rear on the SE that enable the bike to basically shut off the far lights. If it sees oncoming traffic, it allows the motorcycle also to warn you of blind spot dangers, etc. Very, very technologically advanced motorcycle, but the engine, the performance more or less is the same. This incredible motorcycle sits at a hefty 260 kilos. That's about 567 pounds for this model. The SE is a little bit heavier with all the tech that's involved. And I like it. I like big bikes, actually. I've been really enjoying the touring on them because they push through the wind better. You're not getting thrown around. And I just like the beefiness of a larger motorcycle that definitely does not sacrifice any performance. I mean, obviously it's not going to perform like a little 600 track motorcycle. You're not flicking it as easily as I do on my MV Agusta, just in virtue of the weight. I mean, the weight difference is huge, but it is a planted motorcycle because the suspension, the Showa suspension, is fantastic, of course. On this one, it's not electronically controllable like it is on the SE. On the SE, it's all push-button control, and the motorcycle does its thing. It's actually adaptive as well. It's reading the nature and the characters of the ground, and it's making adjustments as you go. This one you kind of have to do on your own. I haven't really messed with the suspension, but I haven't felt the need to do so either. I feel like for everyday commuting and some of those long distance tours, even if it's two up, the suspension is fully satisfactory, especially for a rider of my size. I am 80 kilos, let's say, 180 pounds, 172 centimeters or 5'8". So for me, the controls are very comfortable. It's a bike I could actually rack out miles on. And especially the beautiful fact that bikes like this come with the optional luggage. The luggage is gorgeous on these motorcycles. It's shared with the Versus as well. So I'm going to link to that little piece of review on that bike because they plug in right here. I mean, they already come ready to be plugged into the motorcycle. It's 28 liters between the two of them, 17 pounds. Not overall too heavy, and then you get this massive top case that's color matched as well, and you get 100 liters of carrying capacity. And again, I highly recommend the top case. I like the luggage. It fits a full-size helmet in there, and I have a Shoei Neotech modular, fairly sizable helmet. Unlike the concourse, you cannot fit a GoPro. You have to remove the GoPro if you're going to put your helmet in there, which is a pain in the ass. I think that could have been done better. And unlike my VFR 1200, you cannot adjust this strap, which for sure is going to break. Not the strap itself, but the little screws that are holding the strap.
Nice. Costco.
This is a Jivy style case. I don't know this for a fact, but having owned so many Jivies, I am willing to bet that this closure and these bolt style things are basically Jivy production, and that fails. And fucking hate this closure. It's just the most annoying. I got a master's degree, 2 bachelors, and well-traveled 6 languages, and I cannot figure this bastard out. Like, I'm always working on how does this go together. My mind doesn't put it together. I don't know how to do it, you know. So anyways, I don't like the closure, but the helmet fits nice. Unlike my VFR 1200, it would be really nice to have some kind of a padded sheet on side, so you're not always scratching your helmet up, right? Not really scratching it, but padding would have been nice. But again, no clearance. Just enough clearance for your GoPro mount, no clearance for your GoPro, and I really like that about the concourse. Check out that review, because in a concourse, like a gentleman, you come to work, you got your 4-inch binder you have in there, your computer, everything, right? You take your leathers off, your back protector, you put it all away, and you walk into the office like a gentleman with all your gear. Here, there's a little more labor involved. So another thing that I noticed I don't like about the Luggage, in this particular case, I mean, it's a little angular, a little quirky, but it's okay. You know, that's all. It's not a bad style. Taking it off is a little interesting. I actually had to look it up. I didn't know how to do it because it wasn't working. So you have to obviously unlock it, pull this little lever out, and then you have to slide it back. And I didn't know that was the case. So I was pulling on it and trying to figure out how it works. But if you slide it back, that's what the bike looks like without it. Much more aggressive looking, right? That looks like a sport bike now at this point. So very, very attractive. And I did notice that these little rubber seats here are starting to kind of show a decent sign of age. Nothing that can't be rubbed off. It is rubber. So, but anyways, so that's the Luggage. The good part is it is shared among other Kawasaki motorcycles, so you can find them on the market should you happen to drop yours. So there it is. That's the Luggage. Highly recommended. This particular year, without all the crazy tech like the SE model has in the rear that forces this whole part to be dropped down, it also enables the bike to be fitted with a luggage for the top of the motorcycle. So the top case here is by Givi, and because there's not so many sensors in the front here, you also have a lot more array of front windscreens for aftermarket producers that make it a little bit larger if the wind is a problem for you. The logo is the logo of the basically Kawasaki team from the aeronautics division that worked on the Supercharger to make it small enough and efficient and safe and not run so hot to fit on a motorcycle. And it's kind of amazing the whine that this thing has when you're really high up in the RPM and then you kind of let off the gas and the engine braking kicks in. It's just this little chirping of the Supercharger is so sexy. It's incredible. And of course that has to do with the blades running at a speed faster than sound, so that you're actually running supersonic. I mean, it's pretty impressive. So the Supercharger is always one of the most interesting things to talk about at a parking lot meet, and that's why it's pronounced so predominantly right there where it's very visible. And I really love it. I think it's, aside from the cool factor of having a Supercharger on a motorcycle, it's actually quite usable for the everyday. I mean, think of like the dads that ride those super sexy Avant Audi wagons and whatnot. I mean, just incredibly stupid amount of power for a wagon, but who cares, man? Enjoy it, you know? So this is that kind of a motorcycle that means business. You get everywhere faster, and hopefully the pockets are deep enough to pay those tickets, because you're likely going to rack some with this incredible motorcycle. Now let's talk about the paint. It came in these two versions. This is the black, Diablo black, what they called it, metallic Diablo black. I don't like to use that word on my motorcycles. It just, especially not one that's really easy to you know, take your life, I guess, if you don't respect it. The other color, though, I gotta say, surprised me. The other color is emerald blaze green. Holy smokes, you gotta see this in person. I mean, I understand, you know, maybe your crazy Uncle Bob back in the 80s and the 90s rode the hot green Kawasaki highlighter color. This isn't it, folks. This is some really fancy paint. Again, I talk about it with my Versys, just because that Versys was that color green. It blew me away. It's gorgeous. It's so beautiful, and it's actually some sort of a self-repairing paint. You can tell it's high end. So little marks and chips maybe from your belt or from your ring of the lady that's pushing here because she's so, you know, into this motorcycle, or something to that. Some smaller scratches will ideally repair in a hotter sunlight direct environment where that top coat will kind of dissipate, or at least mitigate some of that scratching. So I think that's the way to go. This paint is the opposite for me. It looks, I don't want to say it looks cheap, but definitely with some sun hitting this thing, it does not look very nice. I don't understand how, out of all the options, that this is what was chosen. I mean, the green, when you see it in person, you would understand. Plus the Kawasaki heritage. Of course, this is the infamous Ninja, right? From 1984. Ninja is synonymous with Kawasaki, I would argue, coming from somebody who put more miles on a KLR, their best-selling motorcycle. And I've also had the Concourse, mind you. I wasn't a huge fan of that motorcycle. I would most certainly pick this one over that one. This is supposed to be the successor to the ZZR 1400, which I think is probably better looking. If I'm honest, it's more of my style. I'm not a fan of all these angular, angry lines of the Kawasaki, and even from their 400 cc Ninjas that are now all over, you know, getting the younger riders to ride. There's just so many lines and so many peaks and angles, and even here in the mirrors, and there's just a lot of inlet. And here, for example, you get one. It's asymmetrical. The inlet here, the air intake, I guess, is open on one side and it's closed on the other. It's not even trying to be fake there. So I don't know. You know, you get these plastic bulbous things, and it's just not. It's a gorgeous bike. I mean, I'm not unattracted to it, but in this color, I think it was a complete miss. I don't know. Kawasaki made the Versys in beautiful red and in blue, and I think that just attracts more people. To me, this looks too plasticky, too plastic. It's a color of plastic, and nobody really enjoys that, I think. So the motorcycle really is fantastic. It shifts so good. It's incredible how it shifts. I mean, mind you, this is a bike that has racked up 41,000 miles trouble-free. So that tells you something, I would hope, about its, you know, famous Kawasaki reliability. It's a bike that, even with the Supercharger, that most people would maybe be afraid of to get into, just in virtue of not knowing how it stresses the motorcycle. After all, it is a high compression motor, 11.2 to 1. It does really speak to Kawasaki's ability to create something amazing. Of course, they're still breaking barriers with their hydrogen run motorcycle. Pretty fantastic. Looking forward to what the future brings from Kawasaki. So, fantastic suspension. Brakes on this one are, I believe, Nissin. They have a Kawasaki logo on the calipers, as opposed to the SE model, which are Brembo. And I have noticed that the rear is fairly spongy, surprisingly so. It might have something to do with the age of the bike at this point, or the fluid, etc. But surprisingly spongy on the rear there. Nothing's wrong with it. It's just it definitely could have been a little bit better. I've noticed, truth be told, if I was really considering this motorcycle to change my MV, but the MV is a little more precise in the cornering, a little more responsive in the throttle, and the engine braking is a little easier to live with. In this motorcycle, the engine braking, you really feel it. So then in the corners, when you pull off the throttle suddenly, it does get a little choppy. Granted, the MV has the optional, well, I think all of them, not just the S version, you can actually tune engine braking from low or high, so it's kind of interesting. I ride with it on the high, but I still notice it lower than on this motorcycle. So I can ride that bike significantly faster, but granted, this motorcycle is also on, you know, sport touring tires, of course. Sitting on a 190 in the rear, 17-inch, of course, wheels, front and rear, and chain driven. You know, some might argue sport touring motorcycles ought to be shaft driven. You know, there's a lot of torque, there's a lot of miles, you don't want to be dealing with the chain all the time. I don't disagree. You get more direct power with the chain, But yeah, with the single-sided swing arm, at least the wheel's easy to service and to remove, even though for some reason they thought it was a good idea to put this big and fairly, well, I don't want to say unappealing. It's not unappealing. It's okay. It's got to be there. This exhaust muffler hiding the gorgeous Pentastar wheel right there. So I'm not sure if putting a shaft drive on this thing would have made it better. One other difference with the SX from the SC. The SC comes with these cornering lights here, and I found that very interesting on the Versys 1000, the LT-SC Plus. So here you do have the plastic covering to show where the lights belong, but unfortunately they didn't include it, which is kind of interesting. I think it's a great safety feature when the lights follow the corner, especially on a motorcycle. So it's unfortunate that they decided not to include that here, especially when the bracket, I mean, is already there. It's kind of, it looks a little odd without it. So yes, it's a big light, it's clear, it's not very attractive, but from safety perspective, it's a great addition. So in the SC as well, you get the little warning here when you have a blind spot obstructed by vehicles. So that's a blind spot warning basically that comes with that bike as well. Another safety feature that might become more popular, but for now it's not included in these mirrors. These mirrors, of course, they do swing very easily and positively, but you could see, look at all these crazy lines on this, just on this mirror itself. It's kind of interesting. I mean, why is there, you know, it's the sharp angular line of this motorcycle. The cool logo, though, I gotta say, for this new generation of Kawasaki's, it's pretty impressive. But look at all these points and this angry front face. This is what I mean by the metallic paint. I guess it would be like a metallic, not gunmetal at all, but a metallic graphite, very metallic, is just better in green. And if they were to provide the red and the blue like they do on the Versys, I think this bike would just pop out more. In this gray, it pops out the least, and I think it's such a shame. I mean, it's just a shame, because of course this plastic piece is duller from all the oxidation than the metal tank, for example, and the plastic, so they just don't match. And then you of course get the regular plastic there, so it's just not, it's not, I don't think it compares well with the green. So if you were to get this bike, get the green would be my recommendation. It just pops. I mean, it's a beautiful green, and hopefully they create more colors, because Kawasaki always kind of corners themselves to you know, not every biker is cool on green, just like not every biker is cool on orange for KTM. It's a huge, I mean, I understand it's part of their brand and everything, but it's very, it pigeonholes them into this specific type of rider that's Kawasaki no matter what. And I mean, it's hard to sell a green bike. So here you have just a ram mount, goes perfectly into that stem bolt right there. And the TFT display for the SE version is worth it. It's just a bigger TFT display than it is on the Versys, for example. It's just a nice, beautiful display. And you get a bunch of, here you can see the analog speedo or the tach with the speedo being digital. I like that combo because, you know, the typically miles per hour kind of pop up pretty quickly, and it's good to have them visible in big letters. So I don't mind the speedo here. For the Versys, the speedo was a little busy. It wasn't as big, the display, so it was a little busy with a lot of lights and colors and buttons, and I think it had over like 18 idiot lights. I mean, some were just inert. They were just there to be there, I guess, and I don't dig that either. So highly recommend. I believe if I were buying this bike again, I would buy the SC version in a little louder green, because I think the money difference is significant. I think that bike is closer to 29-30K, and but you get all of it, and you know, it's worth it in my opinion. The tank itself, you get, I mean, 200 miles pushing it. Usually around 170 you're looking for gas stations, so somewhere between 35 and 42 miles a gallon, depending on how you ride. This bike likes to be ridden hard. It doesn't like to sit at 70 miles an hour. It likes to more be at like 90. So luckily here in San Diego, we don't have too many cops that will prevent us from doing that. Not saying that you should do that, but it's kind of hard not to on this bike. So like I said before, make sure you got some money on the side to pay those tickets, because it's very easy on this bike. We're looking around now at the trellis frame. This is a little interesting. It's different from what you would consider on a regular sport bike, but I find it very beautiful. All these lines, kind of reminiscent, not a trellis frame, but reminiscent of my Suzuki SV. I like being able to see the guts to some extent. I think it's a beautiful design, and of course my Triumph Tiger. I always found that motorcycle very appealing. And as I mentioned before, because this is not the SC model that has all the tech and the sensors and the here up front in a little box, and down here in another box, you do get a chance to install this V47 mono key system by Givi. Great system, looks decent on the bike. And as you can see, I can leave my helmet there. I don't normally wear this helmet with the bike. I wear the Ruroc Atlas 4.0, another bike helmet that I reviewed, so check that out. It's a all full carbon fiber with gold accents. It goes amazingly well with this bike, also because it's very aggressive. It's got a ton of sharp lines, but as you can see, it could fit 2 full-size helmets, everything you need, and it stows away nice. I don't think it looks odd either, but obviously it does add a different line to the bike. And the luggage is shared between the Ninja 1100, the Versys, and because this exhaust is so low, the luggage on the right side does not compromise storage space, which is great. Usually if the pipe is high, it goes into the actual luggage system itself, and then you don't really have a lot of space to work with. I don't know, I love luggage. I would ride this bike with luggage. I would buy it with luggage because I think it looks fantastic with luggage. It's angular as well. It's not bulbous. It's a very attractive luggage. And you can actually replace the little pieces on it, the little colored accents, the single line and the upper portion, if you tend to scratch it. So that's kind of nice. You can still have decent luggage if you tend to tip the bike over. So they sell those parts extra, which is kind of nice. But as you can see, it just plugs in right there, so it's pretty great. And then I don't know, I still would like to see that wheel though. That's a beautiful wheel. Now, you know, it's reminiscent of or actually reminds you of the ultimate of Kawasaki's line in the H2 models of the family. And when you have a motorcycle selling of upwards of $80,000, then you know, I find it amazing that you could have luggage on something like that. It's pretty amazing, because my Super Veloce, they just came out with 1,000 not that long ago. If you're interested, that's another 80,000 euro motorcycle. If you're interested, I did a whole factory tour of MV Agusta, and you know, the MV Agusta Serie Oro 1000, also 4-cylinder motorcycle, beastly machine. And you know, you get a 24 karat black gold that tells you what number of 82 or 83 you got one. You get a tailored suit to match the bike, etc. Because of course the famous Agostini rode MV's Agustas, and one of the most decorated, coveted riders in motorcycle racing history. He's still kicking, he's still riding, so he's very much involved. He signs every bike. So that's special. I would wish that Kawasaki understood that if you're putting 30 grand in a bike, it'd be nice to have something extra to show for it, some kind of ownership experience that's specific to SX owners or SE owners, whatever, H2 owners, that really make that a special buy, because it takes a while to accumulate 30 grand to spend on a motorcycle. But this one is a bike you can actually live with because of the luggage, because of all the amenities. I would say if you're buying it and you can't dish out the 80K, obviously, the SE is the way to go. Buy it in green if it doesn't come out in more colors, and just enjoy it for many years, because you're not going to be bored with it. Clearly the motors sound, there's been a few recalls, but recalls are taken care of pretty quickly, pretty easily with your dealer. One recall I think had to do with the rear bearing of the wheel, and that was convenient because this motorcycle needed a new axle anyways, and bearings and whatnot, so that was done. But you know, anybody works on Kawasaki's, that's another benefit, as opposed to the MV Agustas, which are very exclusive, I guess. So there it is. Stay tuned for a complete in-depth review of my MV Agusta and how it compares to this amazing motorcycle. So far, been quite impressed with what this thing has been able to do, and I would definitely be looking for the SE model and trying out all those techs on a bike like this. Thank you again for watching, and ride safe. And by all means, if you see one of these, pick them up, because they are so rare. And again, it's a biker's bike. You're not gonna like it. It's just impossible. And you know, they were over $20,000, and now on the used market you can get them for a significantly less than that, and you get a hell of a lot of motorcycle for that. And again, just with the virtue of having luggage as an option, and good looking luggage as well that you actually want to keep on the bike is just so much more useful for the everyday. Very easy to live with, and you know, Kawasaki knows what they're doing. They don't make a bad motorcycle. Thank you again for watching. Stay safe. Until next time, Nick, I'm out.